I'm gonna get real weird with you, and I've never done this with any audience, okay? So, I'm guessing most of you have either had too much beer or not enough beer for this. We'll see how it goes.
I'm only 12 years old.
Oh! If you've had a beer, then you've definitely had too much. So, I think you'll be able to hang with this better than anybody else. You know why? Because this is gonna go back to like middle school biology, okay? Have you learned about food chains or food webs at school?
I'm glad I haven't.
Oh man. Okay, well, everybody's gonna get a lesson tonight then. This guy's a good heckler. So hopefully some of you learned about a food chain, right? So it's like, you know, the one I remember learning about in school is the grass grows, and then the bunny eats the grass, and the fox eats the bunny, and that's how the energy goes from the grass to the fox, right? Well, we have those in lakes too. But I would actually describe it as more of a pyramid shape than a chain, and I'll explain that concept in a moment. And there's all sorts of stuff that's going on. It's a very complicated ecosystem, but we're going to really simplify it, and we're going to focus mostly on kind of these top two spots on the food chain, because those are the things you care about. How many of you are fishing for zooplankton tomorrow? No, nobody. Maybe bluegill, probably walleye. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to build our lake ecosystem from the ground up. From the very lowest portion of our food pyramid, or our chain. At the base of every lake ecosystem is nutrients. These are the things on the periodic table. Have you learned the periodic table, young man?
I wish I had.
Oh my gosh. This guy, I'm getting nothing from him tonight.
Oh no,
But there are elements, there are nutrients that are very important to growing life, any life, but also in a lake ecosystem. So phosphorus, nitrogen, carbon, iron, magnesium, potassium. These are the things that we have to put together to make ourselves, and fish and zooplankton and aquatic plants, they're all doing the same thing. We're all part of the same game, really. So nutrients are the base. Now some lakes have a lot more nutrients than others. Who's from down south somewhere? Nobody?
Born in Appleton.
Where? I don't know. Eau Claire's south. Marshfield. Yeah, central Wisconsin. Eau Plaine Reservoir. Eau Plaine Reservoir has tons of nutrients in it. And a lot of them are coming from terrestrial sources, which isn't always great, and there's some issues there. Madison Chain, very productive lakes, tons of nutrients. Sometimes that's naturally occurring, sometimes it's not. But nutrients form the base of this ecosystem. If you don't have nutrients, you can't grow anything farther up the food pyramid. That's kind of the point I want to make. The next element we need is the sun. We need that energy coming from the sun. With the sun and elements, we are very fortunate on this planet that we have something we call primary producers, or plants. Also algae, they are a form of plants. My wife's a plant biologist, so she would get excited about this portion. If we didn't have this, we wouldn't have a way of turning all these nutrients and this energy from the sun into something that we can use. We can actually eat a salad and get something out of it. If I gave you a block of carbon, like a chunk of carbon, and asked you to eat it, you wouldn't get a whole lot out of it. So we are very fortunate to have them, and we have lots of them in the lake. Just above them in our food pyramid, we have what we call primary consumers. This is the first group of animals that does not make their own energy. They're not green, they don't use the sun, so they eat plants and algae. We're talking about zooplankton, we're talking about mayfly larvae or chironomid larvae, lake flies as you may know them. We have one step above that where we may actually start caring a little more. These would be our secondary consumers, so bluegill and crappies and all sorts of things that like to eat this level. And then on the top, we have our top predators. Walleye, pike, muskie, things that are eating the other fish in the lake. The reason this is shaped like a pyramid is you can only support so much biomass, so many pounds of fish at the top, by having all the steps below it. If you had a really narrow nutrient base, you can't support that many predators. There are some lakes like that. If you have a really wide nutrient base, you can support tons of pounds of fish. The thing is, you can't really change it. Your lake is kind of fixed. And when you do start adding nutrients through like terrestrial sources, manure and things like that, you create a lot of other problems. So you want your good nutrients that you have, and then that's kind of, you know, what you have to play with. So we'll focus on this top predator section, and we'll look at the Chippewa Flowage in specific. So this is just that top portion of the pyramid, our predators. And this is kind of my visual representation of what our predator community looks like in the Chippewa Flowage. This is not scientific at all, except for it came from a scientist's mind. That's the only way we can call it scientific. We have walleye, and we have different sizes of walleye, and we have a fairly good number of them. We have some muskies, we have some bass, we have some pike. We have a lot of pike. The thing about this portion of the food chain is you can't just magically create more of something. I can't just say we're going to have 10,000 pounds more predators next year, because we would need 100,000 pounds more bluegill to support them. And we would need 100,000 more pounds of zooplankton to support their bluegill. And we would need 100,000 more pounds of algae to support those zooplankton. Do you see where I'm going with this? So we're kind of fixed. This is the world we have to play in. There's not much room at the top. We are at what we would call carrying capacity. That's probably a concept you've heard. You've heard it for maybe deer, you've heard it for anything else. And that's why I intentionally filled in this pyramid really full. You can't fit any more icons out here. So to make more of something or to get something bigger, something has to change or something has to go. And that's kind of the concept behind the Pike Improvement Project. The Chippewa Flowage right now has a lot of small northern pike. A lot. When we netted out here last year, we actually got more pike than we got walleye, which was very surprising and concerning, and that was one of the things that kind of spurred us to do this project this year. When you look at the size of the pike in the flowage, it's poor. We only have about a quarter of our pike over 21 inches. That's a low bar, and we're only getting about a quarter of the pike over there. The really big ones are coming in about 2% of the pike out there. So we have this huge glut of fish, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 inches, right? Well, the other thing is they're not native to the flowage, right? So they're kind of muscling out things that had been here historically. So that makes us ask the question, what if we didn't have so many pike? What if we go on a thought experiment here where we visualize a future with less pike? So all of a sudden, look, we've got some room in their food pyramid. Carrying capacity has been opened up for something else. Now, what might grow into that? One possibility is we'd get bigger pike, which hasn't happened yet, but there they are. One possibility is we'd get bigger pike. That's a very well-established concept in fish biology. When you have less of something, they're going to be bigger. We talked about that with bluegill earlier on. I showed you that when the abundance went down, the size got better. This would not be a bad outcome. Even folks that don't particularly love pike are happier catching more 25 and 30-inch pike than they are 17 and 18-inch pike, right? We like this. One of the reasons we think this is a reasonable outcome is we have seen it very recently and very locally. On the Cooheray, we had a somewhat related project where we were trying to reduce the abundance of northern pike to help the muskie population. And so what we did is we went in there, we netted lots of pike. They really concentrate to spawn in there, so we can hit them pretty hard. We took out 3,000 pike in 1 year, which is about a third of the adult population. We processed them all. We had a bunch of them turned into food patties that were donated to local food shelves. It was a good thing. It was utilizing a resource that people weren't that excited about, didn't care about. And what we saw in this very complicated slide, you can focus all the way over here. This is the before, which looks a lot like the Chippewa Flowage, and this is the after, where all of a sudden we've got more 23, 24, 25-inch pike. We had 10 times as many 28-inch pike as we did before. Just by freeing up a little bit of food and reducing their density, their growth was kind of unlocked. This was 1 year after the fact, by the way. So we're going to continue monitoring that and see where this goes. Going back to the Chippewa Flowage here, another outcome is we might get bigger walleye. And that was kind of the previous part. They're growing okay, but they could be doing better. And there's a lot of overlap between what a pike eats and what a walleye eats. 5-inch perch. We have some, but we don't have an overabundance of them. We certainly don't have enough for everybody. So by taking out some pike, theoretically it opens up more food for walleye. The last possible outcome that I think could be the most likely is we see a little bit of change in everything. We see some bigger pike. We see some bigger walleye. We have more room for muskies. Better muskie reproduction, better muskie stocking survival. One of the reasons the Pike Improvement Project has come along in this particular year is our hatchery crew is out there on the flowage right now. If you drive around, you might see their nets, collecting eggs to go back to the hatchery. We're planning on stocking about 5,000 muskies out here this fall. With less pike, it is very reasonable to expect better stocking survival for those stocked muskies. So we want to make a big push before October to try and make a happy home for the muskies, right? We like muskies. So, Pike Improvement Project, that's kind of my why. This is kind of the how. To do something similar to what we did on LCO, for a water body this size, we estimate that anglers are going to have to be the driving force, and we're probably going to have to get about 10,000 pike. And that sounds like a really scary number, but as I'll show you, we're already part of the way there. We have a lot of things working to our advantage, and we have a lot of partners coming to the table to try and make this happen. So the goals of this you'll notice eradicate pike is not on this list. That's not a goal. Pike aren't evil, they're not doing anything wrong, and a lot of people value them. So we're actually just trying to manage them more effectively for better quality. By reducing their abundance, we think we can increase their size and allow more prey to go to other species. Fairly straightforward. We got snakes, we don't want them anymore. Target is 10,000. To get there, we have to get a lot of small ones harvested. This will absolutely not work if people are only harvesting 26-inch pike. First off, that's not the majority of what's out there. We got to get those small ones, which means you kind of got to bite the bullet and harvest something that we're maybe not that excited about. This family was excited. We need more families like this. This is the Sniadieckis, good Polish folk from central Wisconsin that love eating pike, and they happen to be the parents and uncles and stuff of one of the guys who works for me. We can also have a lot of fun with this. The way this project works, if you harvest a pike tomorrow, you can come into the bar, or many of the bars around the flowage, or the bait shops, and you can ask the bartender or Amanda, or I don't know who will be manning it, I killed a pike today, I harvested it, I am taking it home to eat it, I would like to enter this pike for the record and for the competition. And then you get this little green slip to fill out. We don't need a ton of information, but we do need your name and how to get a hold of you if you win something, and the size of the fish and the date. Once we have all that, tuck it into here, and you are in the running for what, Amanda? Can you tell them about the prizes so I don't have to?
Yeah, there are a lot of great prizes, including Muskies Inc. The Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame has generously donated $1,000 cash. That's going to be drawn in October from all of the registered pike. The Chippewa Flowage Area Properties Owners Association, they've donated a couple different pretty significant cash prizes for the most pike registered throughout the season. And then resorts are donating and other businesses are donating gift certificates. There's going to be a lot of valuable prizes, and that's going to be drawn in October after the harvest season has been completed. The majority of it.
Perfect. So I'll repeat that for the internet here. Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, $1,000 cash prize for one of these snakes. Then the property owners are doing a competition for the individual person that harvests the most. And the caution there is, even though we have this project going, we want to see pike abundance reduced, you still have to play by the statewide rules, which is 5 per day harvested. So do not go over that. And harvest means harvest. It doesn't mean rip their gills out and throw them on a bog. Okay? You will not be able to enter them, and if the warden sees you doing that, you will get a ticket. Okay? So treat them with respect. They're still valuable fish, but we just want to see their density managed a little bit better. We can do all sorts of fun stuff with this because these raffle tickets, while they qualify you for a prize, they give me all sorts of data on whether this is working or not. We can track individual resorts and who's harvested the most. So this was from the winter portion of the competition. Pat's Landing kind of ran away with it. They had a big pike tournament. They're pretty successful. Look at this here. DNR friends and family. This is my office. Now, very clear here, we are not entering any raffle tickets. Okay? We do not want to win, but we want to participate. We want to show some solidarity here, so we're keeping our own tally at the office. And we're in second place. I mean, come on, Deerfoot, are you going to stand for this? Are you going to hang out in third place here behind the DNR? And you can see other resorts. And of course, there were not a lot of resorts open in the winter. We had a really nasty second half to the ice fishing season that kept a lot of people off the water. So this is really our big chance, open water here. And in keeping with that, May is probably going to be one of our best months. These pike are up shallow, they're very vulnerable, a lot of them are going to get caught. So we're setting up a May competition. We're going to have 5 teams going, and you can play for whatever team you want. You can betray Amanda and go elsewhere to enter your tickets. But we have Team Guide and Bait Shop, so this is the guides that are participating, and D&B and Jenks. So all the tickets there will be added up, and that'll be their score. Treelands are going to be their own team, big resorts, and they're having their the Walleye Challenge is going to have some pike components. Musky Tail is a northern tournament, so they get to be their own team. If you stay at Deerfoot, this is probably the most logical team for you to join. This would be the Resort Alliance. This would be non-Deerfoot, non-Musky Tail. And then there's my team, Team DNR. And so you guys better at least beat us. There's only 3 of us. But we will be taking a handful of fish out netting, so we'll see how that all goes. But it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a ton of stuff we can do with this. We're going to try to send out at least monthly updates. There's that individual competition, which will be neat. So if you're up here a lot and you fish a lot, maybe try and make a run for that. I think it's like $500 cash prize for the tops there. I'm also going to look at what city in the world is the biggest pike harvesting city. So like, I think the way I'm going to do it is divide the number of pike harvested by the population size and then multiply it by the distance to Hayward to see who just loves harvesting pike the most. Lots of fun stuff we can do. Now, before I conclude, I mentioned that the base of our food pyramid here is really important and it kind of drives what happens all the way to the top. We're not dumping sacks of manure in the lake to make more crappies, obviously, but there are good nutrients we can add, and that's one of the components behind the Fish Sticks project. So, boom, there's some more fish habitat. We were very busy this last winter. We have now dropped close to 1,000 trees along these shorelines of the Chippewa Flowage, and I will put this map up as I'm doing questions if you want to study it and figure out where you might want to fish. I can tell you these are really good fishing spots for everything. Early season we're catching some walleye, pike, they're great for bass, they're great for panfish, everything's holding off these. I've caught muskies off these, so you'll see this come back in a second. But it'll be back. This is kind of, the end of what I put together for you tonight. Of course, I'm happy to take any questions. I do have a little bit of time, but then I have to run because I'm going to be shocking tonight when it gets dark. So I got to get up to Bayfield County by dark. But happy to chat with you guys for a little while. Thank you for being such a great audience and receptive. Eat more pike. And have a great weekend. Have fun out there. Don't forget that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Thanks, Max.